Book 1, Canto 8. The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Morgan Scorpion. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. Book 1. The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross. Canto 8. Fair virgin to redeem her dear brings Arthur to the fight, who slays the giant, wounds the beast, and strips Duessa quite. Ay me, how many perils do unfold the righteous man, to make him daily fall, were not that heavenly grace doth him uphold, and steadfast truth acquite him out of all. Her love is firm, her care continual, so oft as he through his own foolish pride or weakness is to sinful bands made thrall. Else should this Red Cross Knight in bands have died, for whose deliverance she this Prince doth thither guide. They sadly travailed thus, until they came nigh unto a castle builded strong and high. Then cried the dwarf, Lo, yonder is the same, in which my lord, my liege, doth luckless lie, thrall to that giant's hateful tyranny. Therefore, dear Sir, your mighty powers assay. The noble knight alighted by and by from lofty steed, and bade the lady stay, to see what end of fight should him befall that day. So with the squire, the admirer of his might, he marched forth towards that castle wall, whose gates he found fast shut, nor living wight to ward the same, nor answer comers call. Then tooke that squire an horn of bugle small, which hung adown his side in twisted gold, and tassels gay. Wide wonders over all of that same horns great virtue weren told, which had approved been in uses manifold. Was never wight, that heard that shrilling sound, but trembling fear did feel in every veine. 3 miles it might be easy heard around, and echoes 3 answered it self again. No false enchantment, nor deceitful traine might once abide the terror of that blast, but presently was void and wholly vaine. No gate so strong, no lock so firm and fast, but with that pursing noise flew open quite, or brast. The same before the giants gate he blew, that all the castle quaked from the ground, and every door of free will open flew. The giant self dismayd with that sound, where he with his Duessa dalliance found, in hast came rushing forth from inner bowre, with staring countenance stern, as one astound, and staggering steps, to weet what sudden stowre had wrought that horror strange, and dared his dreaded powre. And after him the proud Duessa came, high mounted on her many-headed beast, and every head with fiery tongue did flame, and every head was crowned on his creast, and bloody mouthed with late cruel feast. That when the knight beheld, his mighty shield upon his manly arme he soon addreft, and at him fiercely flew, with courage filled, and eager greediness through every member thrilled. Therewith the giant buckled him to fight, inflamed with scornfull wrath and high disdaine, and lifting up his dreadful club on hight, all armed with ragged snubs and knotted graine, him thought at first encounter to have slaine. But wise and wary was that noble peer, and lightly leaping from so monstrous maine, did faire avoyd the violence him near. It booted nought to think such thunderbolts to bear. Nor shame he thought to shun so hideous might. The idle stroke, enforcing furious way, mist the mark of his misaimed sight, did fall to ground, and with his heavy sway, so deeply dinted in the drunken clay, that 3 yards deep a furrow up did throw. The sad earth wounded with so sore affay, did groane full grievous underneath the blow, and trembling with strange feare, did like an earthquake shew. As when almighty Jove in wrathfull mood, to wreake the guilt of mortal finnes is bent, hurles forth his thundering dart with deadly food, enrolled in flames, and smouldering dreariment, through riven clouds and molten firmament, the fierce 3-forked engine making way, both lofty towers and highest trees hath rent, and all that might his angry passage stay, and shooting in the earth, cafts up a mount of clay. His boyft'rous club so buried in the ground, he could not rearen up again so light, but that the knight him at advantage found, And whiles he ftrove his combrade club to quite Out of the earth, with blade all burning bright, He fmote off his left arme, which like a block Did fall to ground, depriv'd of native might. Large ftreames of blood out of the trunkard stocke Forth gufht, like frefh water ftream'd from riven rock. Difmayd with fo defperate deadly wound, And eke impatient of unwonted paine, He loudly brayed with beaftly yelling found, That all the fields rebellowed againe, As great a noyfe, as when in Cimbrian plaine An herd of bulls, whom kindly rage doth fting, Do for the milky mothers want complaine, And fill the fields with troublous bellowing. The neighbour woods around with hollow murmur ring. And when his deare Duessa heard, and faw the evill ftound, that daungerd her eftate, Unto his fide fhe haftily did draw her dreadfull beaft, Who fwollen with blood of late came ramping forth With proud prefumptuous gait, and threatned all his heads like flaming brands. But him the Squire made quickly to retrate, Encountering fierce with fingle fword in hand, And twixt him and his Lord did like a bulwarke stand. The proud Duessa, full of wrathfull fpight And fierce difdaine, to be affronted fo, Enforced her purple breaft with all her might, That ftopt out of the way to overthrow, Scorning the let of fo unequall foe. But nethermore would that couragious fwaine To her yield paflage, gainft his Lord to go, But with outragious ftrokes did him reftraine, And with his body barr'd the way atwixt them twaine. Then tooke the angry witch her golden cup, Which ftill fhe bore, replete with magique arts. Death and defpaire did many thereof fup, And fecret poyfon through their inner parts, Th'eternall bale of heavy wounded harts. Which after charmes and fome enchantments fayd, She lightly fprinckled on his weaker parts. Therewith his fturdy courage foone was quayd, And all his fences were with fudden dread difmayd. So downe he fell before the cruel beaft, Who on his necke his bloody clawes did feize, That life nigh crufht out of his panting breaft. No powre had he to ftirre, nor will to rize, That when the carefull Knight gan well avize, He lightly left the foe, with whom he fought, And to the beaft gan turne his enterprize. For wondrous anguifh in his heart it wrought, To fee his loved Squire into fuch thraldome brought. And high advancing, his bloodthirfty blade Ftroke one of thofe deformed heads fo fore, That of his puifance proud enfample made, His monftrous fculpe down to his teeth it tore, And that misformed fhape misfhaped more. A fea of blood gufht from the gaping wound, That her gay garments ftained with filthy gore, And overflowed all the field around, That overfhoes in blood he waded on the ground. Thereat he roar'd for exceeding paine, That to have heard great horror would have bred, And fcourging th'empty aire with his long traine, Through great impatience of his grieved head, His gorgeous rider from her lofty ftead Would have caft downe, and trod in dirty mire, Had not the Gyant foone her fuccored, Who all enraged with fmart and frantique ire, Came hurtling in full fierce, and forced the Knight retire. The force, which wont in two to be difperft, In one alone left hand he now unites, Which is through rage more ftrong then both were earft, With which his hideous club aloft he dights, And at his foe with furious rigour fmites, That ftrongeft oake might feeme to overthrow. The ftroke upon his fhield fo heavy lights, That to the ground it doubleth him full low. What mortall wight could ever beare fo monftrous blow? And in his fall his fhield, that covered was, Did loose his vaile by chaunce, and open flew The light whereof, that heavens light did pas, Such blazing brightnefle to the aire threw, That eye mote not the fame endure to view. Which when the Gyant fpide with ftaring eye, He downe let fall his arme, and foft withdrew His weapon huge, that heaved was on high, For to have flaine the man, that on the ground did lie. And eke the fruitfull headed beaft, amazed At flashing beames of that funfhiny fhield, Became ftarke blind, and all his fences dazed, That downe he tumbled on the dirty field, And feemed himfelfe as conquered to yield. Whom when his Maiftris proud perceived to fall, Whileft yet his feeble feet for faintnefle reeled, Unto the Gyant loudly fhe gan call, O help, Orgoglio, help, or elfe we perifh all. At her fo piteous cry was much amoved our champion ftout, And for to ayd his friend, againe his wonted angry weapon proved. But all in vaine, for he has red his end In that bright fhield, and all their forces spend In themfelves in vaine, for fince that glauncing fight He hath no powre to hurt nor to defend, As where th' Almighties lightning